Here we're going to see how the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland are linked together and how the nervous system and endocrine system can work together to help the body maintain homeostasis. So looking at how they're linked, well, the hypothalamus is the master nerve control center. It's related to the nervous system, and it receives information from nerves around the body about internal conditions. It can release some hormones and regulates the release of hormones from the pituitary gland. So not only can it release some hormones, it can also help regulate what the pituitary gland is releasing. The pituitary gland is considered the master gland, and it's part of the endocrine system. It secretes a broad range of hormones that regulate other glands within the body. We can see exactly where they're located in the brain here, and here's our hypothalamus, and here's our pituitary gland. Again, looking a little bit more specifically, we see the hypothalamus, which can release some hormones, but it's directly kind of connected here to the pituitary gland. So the pituitary gland is located in the bony recess in the brain below the hypothalamus, again in this region right here. It's actually two glands, a posterior lobe and an anterior lobe, and it produces 9 major hormones. The hypothalamus, located up here, secretes hormones into capillaries that cause the pituitary to release or inhibit the release of hormones. So this hypothalamus is helping regulate the pituitary gland. Now, the portal system that carries the hormones from the hypothalamus to the pituitary gland, as we see here, this kind of connection between these two portions located right there, portion in the center of the brain. So when we're looking at the role of the hypothalamus now, the thalamus receives sensory information and relays some to the hypothalamus. So we've got our thalamus and our hypothalamus. This is the hypothalamus, and again, there's that very important pituitary gland. The hypothalamus is responsible for monitoring the body for temperature, pH, and various other conditions. It will then signal the pituitary gland if conditions need to be corrected. So for example, if temperature got too warm or too cold, or if pH got too high or too low, the hypothalamus will be receiving that and then telling the pituitary gland to kind of help correct the situation as needed. So the role of the pituitary gland itself, it's the master gland that signals other glands to produce the hormones that they need. You can see a couple examples right here. The anterior lobe of the pituitary on the side receives signals from the hypothalamus and responds by sending out appropriate hormones to other endocrine glands. The posterior portion of the pituitary receives oxytocin, or antidiuretic hormone, ADH, from the hypothalamus, and it relays them to the body as necessary. So we could see in green, the green arrows here. These are anterior pituitary hormones, and then posterior hormones are the two in purple here. Both important for the body to help maintain homeostasis. Now the control of the hypothalamus and pituitary is actually called a negative feedback inhibition. It's regulated by hormones whose secretions they stimulate. So what does this mean? So we have cold exposure. We have the hypothalamus releasing hormones to the anterior pituitary, releasing a hormone that then itself, once released and found in higher concentrations, can itself impact or reduce or stop the anterior pituitary gland from producing. So this negative feedback loop. I have another lecture on feedback loops. It's just a brief overview of the negative feedback loop where this particular hormone can negatively impact or reduce, in this case, more hormone being produced. The whole reason is, once this is produced in high amounts and completes the job that it needs to, it wants to stop the body from producing it, wasting energy, and to prevent the body from having to re-regulate those conditions. In this case, this negative feedback is an efficient way for the body to, once it reaches appropriate levels, to maintain homeostasis.